everybody, Victoria here, and today I'm talking to you about all of the books that I finished in the month of December. Before we go any further into this video, I want to point out that I am doing a little bit of rebranding on my channel. I am changing my channel name to Victoria Reads Too Much, and I'm also adding a Bookstagram account that will be sort of linked to my channel as well. And so I had kind of debated whether or not I was going to make these changes, and I decided it's a new year, why not change it up a little. I was never super happy with my channel name, and so I'm trying something new. Let me know if you like it. Follow me on my new Instagram, I'll link it down below. I'm also trying standing up while I film today. I feel like when I sit down and film, I get a little sleepy, so we're gonna try to get amped and have a little more energy in our videos. Anyways, I know you're here to find out about what books I read this month, so let's talk about that. The first book that I completed in the month of December was Many Waters by Madeleine. In 2019, I was going through different book series from my childhood and rereading them. I reread The Chronicles of Narnia, and then I also wanted to reread the Time Quintet. And I had read all 5 of those books when I was a kid, and I had really great memories of them. Upon rereading them, I am quite shocked, honestly. They did not quite live up to my expectations. They were not as good as I remembered, which makes me really sad. But I did actually really enjoy this one, which was a bit of a surprise because this one has a little bit of a lower rating in general. This one is very hit or miss for people. I really liked it. It actually might be one of my favorites in the series. Many Waters follows Meg's brothers, Sandy and Dennis, and they are twins, and they have kind of been labeled like the normal people, the average people in the family, because their whole family is like super scientific geniuses, and Sandy and Dennis are just basically like normal kids, normal teenagers. And we find them getting sucked into an experiment of their dads. So they kind of go into the laboratory where they're not supposed to go, and suddenly they find themselves transported back to the time of Noah and the flood. They have some unfortunate things happen to them once they get there, and they actually get separated for a lot of the book. So you see Sandy and Dennis learning how to survive in this new world, but separately, which is unusual for them as twins. They've always done everything together. They get transported to biblical times right before the flood. So we actually end the book with the flood, and all of the things that happen before that are just preparation, Noah building the ark, people thinking he's crazy. But even more of a plot point in this book is the relationship between the humans and what I think are angels. So we have Seraphim and Nephilim, and the Seraphim in this book seem to be what we would think of as angels in the Bible, and they are connected with God. They are on God's side, basically. And the Nephilim are more like, I don't want to say demons because they're definitely not outright called demons in this book, but they are a bit falling away from God, a bit separated from God. They have decided to meld their lives with humans, and there's a lot of like Nephilim human relationships and marriage. And so the Nephilim are sort of becoming a part of the human society, which creates some problems in the world. Since Sandy and Dennis are dropped into this world, they're taller than everyone. They are considered giants. People think they're angels when they arrive, but they're actually humans, and so they're really confused by their presence, and they sort of are just taken in by some of the families and shown hospitality by some of the families. And then Sandy and Dennis really discover a lot of things about themselves as individuals, as young men, and they have some interesting run-ins with different creatures that live in this land that they don't have in their current times. It's just, I felt like a really fun read. It was really fascinating, and Madeleine has a really interesting take on Noah and the flood and what might have been happening right before the flood. I just found this to be really interesting. I love Madeleine's concepts. I don't always love her execution. In this one, I felt like it was pretty decent. What surprised me about this one was that there's a lot of kind of racy sexual content, which is a little bit surprising as a children's book, young adult book. This one's definitely more young adult. It's definitely not middle grade. She's clearly writing for her readers as they're growing up. This one deals with a lot of problems of consent and growing up, learning about your sexuality. That was a really strong theme in this book, which was definitely a surprise. When I was a kid, I don't think I picked up on that. I don't think I noticed that. As an adult, it was a little bit surprising. What I enjoy the most about this book is the way that Sandy and Dennis really grow up and become their own individuals. And I really enjoy this idea of the seraphim and the Nephilim and living in this world with humans. And it was really fascinating. I gave this one 4 stars. I then continued on in the series to finish it up, and I finished An Acceptable Time by Madeleine L'Engle. This is considered the 5th book in the series. However, upon reading it, I realized it's actually also, I think, the last book in another series of hers, which follows Polly O'Keefe, which is Meg's daughter. So this book was really strange because it has time travel and it's considered part of the Time Quintet, I guess, for the sci-fi kind of elements of it, but it's also part of this other series. And so I did feel like I didn't know the characters and that I was kind of expected to know the characters. Polly O'Keefe is not really delved in too much as a main character. And I think that was probably more because I didn't read the books that came before this in that series that follows Polly O'Keefe. So this was just a little bit confusing right off the bat. When we meet Polly O'Keefe, she is visiting her grandparents in the countryside. And so that's Meg's parents, now that you're seeing, are her grandparents. She's visiting them, and her kind of, she's not a boyfriend necessarily, but he is sort of pursuing her a little bit. He one day just kind of drops in unannounced and is like, hey, I just found you and I wanted to hang out. And so that seemed very like strange and contrived, just the way we started the book. So then Polly and Zachary are exploring the grounds. The grandparents have like this beautiful kind of farm of sorts with acres and land. And it's just beautiful landscape. We spend a lot of time being very descriptive about the landscape, which I really enjoyed. I think Madeleine L'Engle has beautiful writing. And while Polly and Zachary are walking around, they find some strange people running around their property. So they just kind of stumble across some people who look like they don't belong to their time. And then they sort of see them and then they run away. One girl comes back and talks to Polly while Polly's swimming in the pool, and they're kind of trying to figure out who are these people who are just showing up on my grandparents' property. And what Polly discovers ultimately is that she is able to cross through time at her grandparents' house. So what she's seeing is actually like the indigenous people who lived in that place. And so some of the indigenous people also have the ability to come into her world and time travel. The only problem is that Polly can't necessarily control when she goes and when she can leave. She just walks around the property and then suddenly she's in a different time. Once again, loved the concept of this book. Madeleine L'Engle always has such interesting ideas for her novels. With this one though, the execution was really poor. The character work was really weak. Zachary is a character who we hate very much because he's very miserable of a character, but at the end we're actually kind of expected to have some empathy for him and some sympathy for him despite how terrible he acts in the whole book. But then we're kind of expected to just forgive him. And this book definitely focuses on forgiveness and kind of righting your wrongs and moving past the bad things that people do to you. And it was just really hard to buy into that when Zachary was so unlikable. He didn't have a lot of redeeming factors, redeeming qualities, and so I had a hard time believing Madeleine L'Engle that I should care about Zachary at all. By the end of the book, I wanted Zachary to go away and leave everyone alone. And it was just one of those characterization problems, I think. This is definitely one of the weaker ones in the series, and honestly, you don't even really have to read this book in order to enjoy the time quintet, and I think it used to be a time quartet, and then they decided to add this one to the mix. I don't think it was necessary. I wish I had read the other books that follow Polly, because maybe this one would have made more sense to me. Maybe I would have cared about the characters more if I had their background. Because apparently Zachary also is in those previous books, which, again, why is this book in the series? I don't know. I gave this book 3 stars. I didn't totally hate it, but I probably won't read it again. It was definitely a weaker one. The next book that I finished in the month of December definitely did not disappoint at all. This was such a fun read, and what a great ending to the trilogy, and that was The Toll by Neal Shusterman. I loved this book so much. It obviously is the 3rd book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, so I can't go into it too much because I would hate to spoil anything for you on accident, but I'll just kind of talk about the qualities of this book that I really liked, and just the qualities of the series that I really liked. The Arc of the Scythe series follows a dystopian world in which humanity has eradicated death. Nobody dies by natural causes anymore. You have to be actually physically killed by a scythe, who is sort of like a grim reaper of society, and society designates who's going to be a scythe and who's not. Scythes are very respected and revered in the society because they have a really difficult job, and as you find out in the series, they have their own political issues and political leanings. They aren't necessarily all respectable and good as scythes. Some scythes have stronger opinions than others about how they should be doing their job. Basically, there is a gleaning quota, and so scythes for a really long time were only allowed to kill a certain amount of people, because don't go crazy with it, right? We don't need to kill people unnecessarily. There are other scythes that really enjoy killing, and they want to be able to kill as many people as they would like, as they feel like. And there's this crazy ruler who kind of comes into power, and he really just wants everybody to be able to kill as many people as possible. He loves killing. He's terrible. And so our 2 main characters, Citra and Rowan, are really trying to fight this political battle, and they become really important. And then we have a 3rd character whose name is Grayson Tolliver, who also becomes really important. I think the political intrigue in this book is especially well done. Also, I love the religious aspects of this book. There are these people called Tonists, and they are definitely like a cult religion, and I found them to be really hilarious, and like the things that they believe in are just really like off the wall and out there. They're very much compared to like, what are those people called? Flagellites? The people who would like beat themselves and punish themselves like back in medieval times. Probably just said like the totally wrong term for them, but they're very much compared to those kinds of people, like the self-punishing religious people. And I know it doesn't sound funny, but I find them to be really funny. maybe I'm messed up, but I just found them to be really funny and entertaining, especially because they have like a musical aspect to themselves, and they're arguing of like about the great tone and if it's A flat or G sharp, and I just thought that was hilarious. And then also in this world, which is a fascinating character in himself, is this benevolent thunderhead cloud entity that's basically like a godlike entity in the world. and the Thunderhead can't talk to Scythes. He's not allowed to talk to Scythes, just the way that the society is set up. But the Thunderhead sort of tries to intervene through different people and kind of people who he deems worthy, and so he can't outright intervene, but he uses these people to intervene in the world and try to save the world. This book was a little bit slow getting into the action. I think we didn't actually get into the action until like 200 pages in, which was a lot of build up into the first thing that happens. There's a lot of review and a lot of reminding you of what happened before, which I actually really appreciated because I hadn't read Thunderhead in a little while, and so I really appreciated the amount of time Neal Shusterman took to review things with you. I know some people didn't like that part of the book, but I didn't mind. I thought it built up slowly, but the reward was great. Once the action gets going, it really gets going, and you're just kind of on the edge of your seat from about like 200 pages in to the end, and then you just can't put it down. It does take a little bit of time to get into it, though, I will admit. I loved how this book ended. I cried a little bit at the end. I had all the emotions. I couldn't put it down. I just wanted to read it nonstop. This is such a great trilogy. It is worth the hype, I think. If you haven't picked it up yet, do yourself a favor. Now the trilogy is all out, so you don't have to wait for any books to be released. Go read the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. Oh, 5 stars. I don't know if I said that, but probably a little obvious. 5 stars. And then the last book I want to talk about is one that I haven't finished as of this moment, and I probably won't finish it before the new year. When I'm filming this, we have like one more day of the new year, and just at my reading pace, I know I won't finish it. But that is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, the second book in the Skyward series, and it just came out, I think, at the very end of November. You can see I'm not actually that far through. I'm only on page 134 out of like 450 or so pages, so I have a ways to go in this one. Initial thoughts so far, it's taking a really different direction than I expected. It has a really different feel than the first book. I'm not sure if I like it or dislike it yet. Time will tell. I think it has a little bit of a more like light-hearted feel. We're seeing a lot of different aliens. It reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit in the world that we're seeing and the different creatures that we're seeing. It's just different. The first book has a really gritty feel, and it feels like also Top Gun. I felt like the first book felt like Top Gun, but like for young adults. This one is not that way so far. This one feels like a Marvel movie or like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. It has a different feel completely, which isn't a bad thing, but it's different. And I'm really interested to see where this goes. I have no idea where it's going to go. Those are all the books that I completed in the month of December. Again, follow me down below on my Instagram. I'm really excited to actually separate a Bookstagram account from my personal account, so please connect with me there if you want to see more bookish content and be sort of updated about when I post videos. I'm also going to make an effort this year to post consistently every Saturday, at least one video a week. I can't promise really more than that, but I think I can promise at least one video a week, and Bookstagram post once a week, and we'll just kind of see where that goes. I might be able to post maybe twice a week. We'll see. I get pretty busy at certain times of the year, so it'll go in waves, but at least once a week, expect videos from me on Saturdays. I hope you're all having a great day. Keep reading great books, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.